Welcome everybody to TNM Coaching Unplugged, the Zone to Dorich Interconnected podcast. As always, we're so grateful and honored and happy that you are tuning into our channel, that you're giving us attention, and that you're learning and growing and evolving with us. A lot of good sharing with the last week podcast with Deva. People really loved it. She was out there talking to us about transformation of her life through really understanding deeper spiritual intelligence, which is really good for a lot of business people to listen who are tuning into this as well, because we're evolving, we're growing. And today we have extraordinary guests as well, because we keep on stretching, people keep on introducing more of the enlightened people who are really able to create this different paradigm on the planet Earth right now when it comes to the business, when it comes to our life, when it comes to our health and well-being as well. Pearly Montagu, she's an advisor and ambassador. She is a profound healer who mixes up ancient healing wisdom, contemporary healing insights. She helps her client activate their natural healing abilities and natural healing intelligences. She can work in with any issues, so to say, but she has her sweet specialties that she's going to talk about. Anything from clearing up the energy field to unblocking the patterns to embodying your essence to releasing any pain and any trauma from your body as well. Basically, anything that is really, really preventing us to become this best possible version of ourselves. And we do know that nowadays a lot of people are struggling with their health and well-being. In the last 5 years, if you look backwards, even before the COVID, there was a lot of issues that we're facing at this moment in time. And it's really important for us to have somebody like Pearly who is able to support people to transform, to heal, not only on the individual level, which is what she does really well, but also on the organizational level, also when it comes to spotting the energetic patterns and really getting us to work in a more profound way. So I'm really, really grateful and happy to have her to join us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and you're somebody that I really met, and I immediately understood that you are a leader, transformational advisor, ambassador, and somebody who is really taking us to the next paradigm of how do we live, work, and exist as human beings. And one of the things that I really want to look into today with you is this healing and transformation, letting go of pain. And my first question, of course, for you, because our audience is always curious, but who is she? Before we start talking about, what you do, but who is she and how did you manage to arrive to this point? And how did she learn this? And how does she know that? So my first question to you is like, what took you to this journey and how did you arrive in your life to the point when you are doing what you're doing nowadays?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I guess it all began in my 29th year, really, when I had had a corporate ship-breaking gas tankers life. And then I had a year that just totally changed my life and set me on a different path and was so defining in so many ways that it was also the most painful year I've ever had in my life. And I think, as I'm sure many of your audience knows, it's always those moments of where you become so broken, and it can be in such a beautiful way, but it allows you to birth into something new, and it's life's way of supporting you onto a different path. And sometimes it can be, in my experience, incredibly painful and a really long journey, which involves a lot of courage and just keep showing up and keep trying to, one foot in front of the other, try and learn and grow and surrendering. There's one of my favorite books, The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer, which is such an awesome book for anyone who hasn't read it, but that's very much how I live my life. And so I had at the beginning of the year a breakup that left me very shattered. And then I had 6 months of meditating kind of through the pain. And then just as I was getting back on my feet, I was then in this incredibly serious accident where I had a lot of injuries to my upper body. And I woke up in hospital and I had machines beeping and needles coming out of my arms. And since then, it's been a 7-year journey of having to really fight for my health, mentally and physically, picking myself up off the floor. But in that moment, I really made a promise to myself of, this wouldn't be something that happened to me that defines me. It would be just part of the tapestry of life. And what I guess has been my experience, that challenges are opportunities to evolve if you can meet those challenges with sort of courage and grace and sprinkle it with humor and equanimity to just roll with the waves. And so it's been many, many different iterations of initially with Western medicine. And then I pretty quickly hit a ceiling of realizing from being in a lot of pain and I wasn't being helped by Western medicine. And then through actually taking years to even understand my own injuries. And I guess now what I realize is having PTSD, but going through sort of a real journey of feeling very disconnected from my body and very waking up in a lot of pain every day and feeling very vulnerable and feeling very financially vulnerable because I wasn't able to work and just feeling very alone and not having people around me who necessarily could advocate for me. And yeah, just being in, I guess, in quite a dark tunnel and not really necessarily being able to see the light. And then through various twists and turns, I actually started burning out during lockdown because I was doing a job that it had just overcooked my nervous system from what had happened before. And I had never really recovered. And then I was taken to this little Greek island in Corfu, which is where I am now. And I found it was so funny, but I had such clear signs that I should go there and just trusted and surrendered. And there I found this very beautiful and spiritual community, which had all the modalities from the East, plant medicines, things like that. And there I found cranio-reflexology, acupuncture, electromagnetic fields, therapies, and all these different plant medicine and just stuff that really moved the dial and made such a difference to my body. And so then the next iteration of that was once I realized that I had sort of finally found what I needed to help my body to heal. I then was able to, I was really inspired to train in some of the modalities that had been so meaningful to me. So training in Kundalini activation, which is an energy transmission, and then training in reflexology, and then training in cranial sacral therapy, which is at its essence a deep, deep relaxation. And then when I started to practice with other people, it began with reflexology and then it began with singing a lot of mantras. And was maybe doing a lot of sessions. So I was singing maybe 20 hours of mantras a week, but everything just changed. And for anyone who's not aware, but mantras is also known as medicine music. And it was like I had changed my vibration. And I remember my meditation teacher talking about illnesses in a completely energetic way of just saying that illnesses have every illness runs on a certain vibration that's like higher or lower. And so rather like meditation or mantras, if you get your level of consciousness above an illness, then you'll heal. So like the common cold, which we would all have on a retreat, by day 3, everyone had gone because of the collective consciousness of meditation. So it was kind of just looking at things in a different way, which wasn't knowledge that I was born with. And just for the first time, he introduced to me the idea of there's an intelligence that sits behind our lives and you can play with that. And then there was a course I did that also changed my life, which was a neurolinguistic programming course, which is now today sort of mainstream manifesting. But that was 10 years ago. And so it's rather like a little bit like the quantum healing in terms of Deepak Chopra's work or Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, which is every day just believing I could get better and better, and every day calling in relationships that would help me to heal or heighten me. And so it has been really that journey of starting to do like with the mantras and everything changed, and then starting to use like warm oil, coconut oil, pouring it on the body. And then it became almost like this sacred honoring of someone's body from a place of a sort of mother's love, nurturing, safe space. And then moving on to I always grew up to believe that we have a guardian angel because my brothers and we've all had near-death experiences. And it was like someone was there and someone was holding us. And then when I started to call them in, and I didn't tell my clients this, but then they would just start to say things to me, like they'd seen white light, they saw white light moving through the body. And then I used a little bit with sort of plant medicines, but then realizing actually I could start to see colors in people's bodies. And I remember just playing around with my business partner whose arm he couldn't lift because he couldn't even get in his coat. It was in so much pain. And I could see all this sort of dark gray smoke around his shoulder blade. So I just almost like if you imagine a sort of a surgeon, you're cutting and opening and then just pulling out all this smoke. And by the end of the session, he could lift up his arm and he was fine. And then realizing I can do it online, and I can just tune into people's field, and I can see colors, and this whole labyrinth opens up when I start to drop into the energetic landscape. And it's a little bit like just sitting at the lever point of how physiology and biology occurs. So I'm sure some of your audience are familiar with in terms of electromagnetic therapies, where you're working at that energetic intersection in the body. So over thousands of years, there's been Japanese Reiki and acupuncture and the like. And what happens in our lives when we have a trauma or a chemical toxicity from living in cities, the biology and energetically that trauma is stored. But biologically, our body will always work to return our body to its original design. But the energetic trauma gets stored, and it can also be stored generationally, because in most cultures today, we've lost those rituals, that fireside song, dancing ceremony and the like, that would have enabled it to heal. And so in addition to be able to seeing what I can see in this gift, it's not my gift, it's a gift that I was given with so much privilege, that I am able to help people. And so from that, I have developed this microenergetic surgery where I can just remove what I can see in the field, and then the body comes forward to heal. And so as a result, I've been able to help people with I'm not quite sure why human beings are quite so complicated, but there's such a myriad of things that we have. And so whether it's grief or anxiety or back pain or knee pain or anger, or it's really interesting if I'm working with any parents who've got problems with their families, or maybe like the mother line before in the lineage everyone's had no money. And I can see the bonds. There's like, it almost looks like something like a curse, or sometimes it's weapons in the field. It's like these hooks that I see in their field. And so I'm just able to, in so many different ways, with so many different challenges, most of the time I'm doing something I've never done before, because you always just ask for help and ask for divine guidance. And then I'm guided on how to do it and what I should do. And so, and then more recently, it's also working within the corporate landscape. So you're working with the energetic field around business relationships, around business deals, because actually, fundamentally, it's the same. So there's a huge billion-dollar unicorn that I'm working with, and it's around the parent company and all the different, because it's the same. You're actually just working with relationships, but it just happens to be in the corporate landscape. And the same, there's legal cases, which has been so fascinating for me to be lucky enough to support the people. And again, you can use visualizations exercise. I also help with that. But just working to remove what I see, and humblingly, all the legal cases I've worked with so far have been successful. So it's been this wild journey of just showing up with this sort of childlike curiosity of home being Ibiza, and I'm right by the water, just asking the water every morning, like, what gift is coming through, and how can I show up, and how can I serve? And that's, I think, for me, service to others is what nourishes the soul. And I think that's, for me, what I'm here for.
Exactly. Service to others is what's nourishing the soul. But I also want to kind of audience to bookmark this, because I think it's super important that a lot of the times in our hero's journey, and I really believe that hero's journey, it's a living template in our human experience. We do need to go through challenges, difficulties, transformation, turmoils. We do need to go into the cave. We do need to really struggle sometimes, not only mentally, emotionally, physically, and then persevere, and then raise up, and then come into the position that you're right now, that you can then give your gift back to everybody else. Because if you haven't had that struggle, would you be really initiated into your healing power and your healing abilities? And sometimes a lot of the people are trying to avoid it, right? We're trying to not to go there. I also had my intense hero's journey that I'll share some other time, but I know that my hero's journey got me to that point that I could be able to coach, support, mentor, guide other people. Otherwise, probably I will do something else. So for me, it's always fascinating when I'm talking to people like you and they share their life story, which was not easy. When you said, and I was on machines, and I was this, and that had happened, and that happened, and then this happened. I was like, wow, her hero journey, it's fascinating. But there you are. And now you can do microsurgeries energetically on people and businesses and heal them, right? Isn't that absolutely interesting how the life works.
I know, and it feels like such a gift. And I'm deeply grateful for my experience. I wouldn't change anything. I had no idea what I had no idea when I had the experience of the accident, that how much it would impact my life and how much I would have to fight for my health and how much pain I would have to go through. And interestingly, we work in terms of numerology, we work in 7-year cycles. And last October, it was 7 years from the accident. And every 7 years, your whole body, I'm sure your audience know this, but your whole body, every cell has renewed. So you should be a completely different person. And what happened, and I've always had the experience that people come into your life for a reason. Everything is like there's sort of some divine plan behind all the little mundane things you do every day. But I started to deteriorate more and more. And for me, it was so disheartening and actually really crying for the first time about what had happened.
Yeah.
What I'd been through, I'd always tried to be so strong, and I am really strong. And it was so disheartening that I'm 37 and I really had rather like there's two types of understandings. One is intellectual and one is experiential. And it was the first time I really experienced like I'm in chronic pain. and then a brilliant doctor friend who I've known for years just came back into my life and just really held a space for me to with different therapies for my body to then come forward to heal. But it was like it was a time where I just felt really alone and really just disheartened by my body and the fact that I have to give so much support, and it's so expensive as well. And it's like, yeah, just it was kind of a real sort of moment of like just vulnerability of having to kind of trust and just keep showing up and like just hoping that this will pass. Like, and I remember times in my life when I've been in more vulnerable places, and actually it's so nice when you have people holding you around that can remind you that this will pass, like how your life is now, even if it's really dark and challenging, like in a month, in a quarter, in a year, like it will change, and you can kind of always hold that in your heart.
Yeah. I love that. And I also love that you bring that element of vulnerability, because sometimes you do need to be extremely vulnerable to heal. We need to go to that point of deeper sensing and feeling to transform, and this is something that we do really, really well. And again, for some of the people who are listening to us, bypassing, avoiding that vulnerability, showing up as strong all the time doesn't really work. So we do need to go into that space. And I also see for myself that this profound healing also happens when you're alone. And sometimes we can do feel, that we're lonely or alone in that moment, but we're never alone, because what you mentioned as well is that you and your brothers, you always felt there's a higher, bigger force behind you taking care of you. So it's really interesting to bring that forward. So here you are. So from this point on, let's look into this. How do you support people nowadays? Because I'm also interested, especially for the people who are listening to this from landscape of business. As I told you in preparation, we have corporate executives, we have CEOs, we have middle managers in organizations, in corporate world. We have people from government listening to this as well. We have small business owners, entrepreneurs, people, startup people as well. And I can see nowadays, due to the pressure, due to the digitalization of everything, due to the AI emerging from in our life, there's a lot of pressure for people right now, more than ever before. I feel it myself in my own business. I'm like, oh my God, can it be more complex than this? What's going on in this universe? And as a result of this, people are struggling. People are, struggling with pain. They're struggling with lack of energy. There's a lot of people struggling with anxiety. People do not want to admit this to themselves. I coach people high up, and then after session number 3, very shyly, they would say, listen, I'm feeling really nervous and I'm feeling this anxiety. Like they were whispering and said, it's okay. Everybody can feel anxiety. It's fine. Voice it. This is nothing wrong with you. A lot of people are going through these processes right now. So what I'm saying to you and everybody else is that there is this symptomatic situation at the planet Earth that people are struggling, but at the same time, we do want to heal as well. We want to be well. We want to be delivering. We want to be productive. We want to have performance. We want to create success. There's a lot of drive as well. Technology is offering this also. So when people come to you for support and when they are struggling, what do you really offer to them, and how do you work with people? Can we just look into one case, for example, so that audience can have relationship and understand exactly if they sign up for you and they'll ask for your support on an individual level, maybe on the business level, what can they get at this moment in time, so that you can help them? Because I love that you're here and that you have support and help.
Thank you. I mean, one example from a client that I've worked with quite a lot, and he's done quite a lot of testimonials for me very kindly, so it's okay to mention his name, but it's a globally influential figure called Zach Bush, who's a brilliant doctor, very much a thought leader within the microbiome space, but on the business.
Oh, I love Zach Bush. He's, maybe we can use Zach Bush, everybody, majority of people. So Zach Bush. Okay.
Yeah.
He's really, really fantastic. He's great. So go ahead.
So I've worked with so I worked initially with him because he travels all around the world all the time speaking. But I worked with him initially one-to-one online. That was the first initial session that I did with him. And then because my sessions are normally 2 hours, a lot of very big CEOs at sort of his level, or I also work a little bit with the Milken Institute, which is a global financial think tank, and that sort of level of people, they don't have 2 hours to work on a Zoom. And so what happens is someone like Zach will message me and say, I've got a pain in my foot and I have to speak tomorrow and I have a really big event. And I also have the ability to actually drop into someone's energetic landscape without them sitting there. And he's an example, but there's quite a few other CEOs like that will have, especially because if they're on different time zones and moving around, if they had a massive speaking event. And I had a brilliant different doctor, and she had a real challenge with being, someone was taking her IP, her intellectual property, and she was meant to see this person at this conference. And she said, I'm so anxious, I'm so nervous. And I dropped into her field. She wasn't sitting there online. And I actually removed this woman from her energetic field. And then what happened was she messaged me and said, the woman cancelled last minute, which has happened because, and I've had that happen quite a lot, which is when you remove someone energetically from the field, or sometimes it can look like hooks in their back, so someone's been stabbed in the back. And then these people, I remember I did this really fascinating session with Zach where I removed all of this, it looked like hooks in his back, but it was from female figures. And then 3 people in his company who'd been working for him for 6 years, within 2 weeks they all quit. So it was like this epic. He messaged me saying, oh my God, like I have to put you in front of my community. This is extraordinary. I've been working with esoteric scientists for 15 years, and I've never met someone that perceives the structures in people's field in such specific colors, or very vivid structures and colors. So that's some examples of how I've and then with legal cases, I can just tune in and I get visions and downloads a lot when I start to tune into someone's field and I'm connected to them. So I can just start to see them. And I also have prayers of protection. And every morning I for my clients that I work with on a monthly basis, in terms of like corporations, where I might be working, because it's also a form of, I think everyone is aware, we're not motivated long-term by money when it comes to working in a corporation. It's got to be the relationships, feeling valued, feeling cared for and looked after. And the mental health is so much coming into the central point of, it's a real thing that companies have to manage. And so there's a new, very big company that I'm starting to work for. And it's something they offer, rather than offering like the gym membership. It's like, if you have any sort of emotional, physical pain, or any challenges around sleep or with your family, like here's a healer with quite an unusual gift who's becoming, who's quite well known and is very privileged in terms of working with some clients like ambassadors, royalty, movie stars. I've been so lucky, the people who've ended up falling in my lap. And so from there, I've ended up just very organically surrendering, and that's what's happening. So on a monthly basis, if there's certain companies that they just offer it to their clients as a different form of mental health, and so that their C-suite or whatever it is, they feel cared for, or if companies have an away day, in a way for bonding, like I can go, and I'm also quite good at just seeing people, then just tuning into their field and just seeing where they are. And anxiety is like a very easy sweet spot, or back pain. That's something that's very easy for me to help and support.
Wow. Yeah. I would say finally, and good luck, the company who has the courage and, to kind of engage you. And I think this is a new paradigm. When we talk about mental health and well-being, not only in organizations and corporations, but also startups who are under a lot of pressure. Everybody's under a lot of pressure. I think that we need to step into the new paradigm right now. Of course, what works, but we need to evolve from my point of view to engage people like yourself to be able to work on an energetic body. So when people are listening to you and this is all new to them, for example, and you keep on saying that you work with the energetic body, how would you describe it? Is it that you tune into something bigger than yourself? Is it that you tune into the collective intelligence? Is it that you tune into quantum intelligence? Is it that you tune into the source? Just for curious minds, when you work with somebody, or is it that you come up from your own body, your holistic intelligence? Where are you working from? Because I think people are always curious, to find out. And how is she doing that? I mean, where is she? How did she get that? So if you can, it would be lovely for you to share.
I mean, it's not me doing it. It's something that's coming through me, which is something that comes from source or God or angels or whatever words, semantics you want to play the semantics game resonates with you. But it's this gift of sight that I have. And when I start to drop into someone's field, there's always prayers that I say where I'll call in certain angels, like Archangel Gabriel, who's the angel of white light, or Archangel Michael, who's the angel of protection. And so, and I just also say, in the spirit of where intention goes, energy flows. So I also ask for me to be a channel. And then it opens up the space. And I always, a prayer I say every morning. And at the beginning of sessions, it's like, God, angels, please use me to help, to serve and honor the soul in a meaningful way. And so I create the space and open the space. And then when I am just truly present with someone and dropping into their field, whether it's in person, whether it's online, or I'm just remotely tuning in, they're not sitting online. I can just only describe it. It's like this whole labyrinth opens up, which for me, I have such a curiosity for people's bodies. And it's so fascinating when you go, it's like the body is, and like the subconscious is like an onion. And there's just endless layers that you can drop down. And so it's a way that you can also see the bonds around people. So it's like I've worked a lot with parents who have challenges with their children or with their relationships, and I can work with their partner through them, or I can work with the children through them. And so I guess it's tuning into the universal energy and that sort of intelligence that sits behind our lives, and then my own gift of just my own life experience that has enabled me to one foot in front of the other through a lot of tears, a lot of pain, to come to a point where this gift is just getting stronger and stronger, and now you start to see things a lot. So it's kind of fascinating.
But it's amazing to me because I talk to a lot of people like yourself, and I have not same gift like you, but similar gifts in my own way. It's interesting that we come to this point of surrendering. And you mentioned also the book that you love. You're surrendering into something bigger than yourself, and you're allowing yourself to become a conduit, to become a vehicle that something works with you and through you. And at the same time, you create the protection and safeguard the space and make sure that everything is done in a proper way so that the transmission can happen. And I think that this is an amazing thing for people to listen, because sometimes we do need to allow, right? We do need to surrender. We do need to understand our connection to the divine or the source. So people listen to this from a different points of view, for different religions. You can call it anything from God to source, to universe, to divine power, to galactic power, to our source power, whatever works for you. But when we do that, and when we allow that connection to happen, something as beautiful as that profound healing can occur.
Yeah. And I think also there's something incredibly powerful about people being witnessed and being seen, whether it's in a relationship or when someone really feels seen and witnessed. Like, the body can do really extraordinary things to come forward to heal. And if you just hold someone in such a sacred space with the power of prayer, and for me, that's my way of being a mother. And it's just like you really nurture and hold someone, and the way that people can transform and the results that I've had, fascinating and deeply humbling, but it's that essence of really truly being witnessed, which opens the heart and nourishes the soul. And it's and for my clients that I work with on a monthly basis, who maybe I work with the whole family, so if there's any challenges which the mother has, she can message me anytime, because I can just tune in and feel where they are and feel how the child is. If they want to just keep a slightly closer eye, and I can just do it in a slightly more elegant, tactful way. So yeah, and definitely for difficult teenagers, I can help to drop it and get rid of some of the anxiety. And there's so much that, especially for that age, that they're growing up with the social media, it's kind of heartbreaking for me.
It is. It is. I mean, not to talk about the digital toxicity and social media and what's going on actually with our neurology and our brain and our hearts and soul, with all of that. I think that's what I'm saying, and what I said, we are in the stages when we can accelerate this humanity to the frontier that we never imagined. But at the same time, we do need to take care of ourselves. I think that our human selves, our body selves, our soul self, our emotional self needs to be taken care of. And I can see this in my own coaching work and with the teams. The more you push performance forward in your family, in your business, the more you need to take care of yourself. Otherwise, we go into this situation with people collapsing, going into the burnout, getting into the sicknesses, illnesses, chronic disease. They keep on developing and developing. And then what is the point of this life? What is the point of, success? What is the point of you creating what you're creating, if you cannot enjoy it any longer? So this is the most important conversation we can have.
Yeah. And I mean also, from having the privilege of from the Milken Institute, I'm also recognized as one of the young leaders. There's around 300 of us in the world. And I get the privilege to meet a lot of really globally influential figures. And a lot of them have built these companies, which might be sort of billion-dollar unicorns. And actually, when you get behind the field, when a lot of money comes in, that's when the demons come out. And there's a lot of challenges that can come up, and mental health issues. And you see the weight. Money's just an energy, but you see the weight that they carry from the money that comes into their lives. And then there's like a lot of problems, and it causes a lot of challenges with like the family, and then the children growing up, and that money energy being around. And it's super fascinating. But for me, it's like I have to do so much to support my mental health and my physical health that I really, really understand the essence of it. And I know how to get myself back. If I ever feel triggered, like, I'm very happy and joyful generally. But if I ever feel like I'm, not in a great place, which is like, I have so many tools that I can also with clients just guide them, because it's about enabling them. Like, there's stuff I can do which is unique, but there's stuff that I can also help them with.
Of course.
Little tips and tools of stuff they can do at home that doesn't cost any money. They don't have to have a machine for clients that are on the road a lot. But that's, for me, it's like, how you start your morning is how you start your day. And morning ritual, evening ritual, building those times where you build the neural pathways and you can reprogram the mind. And it's like, I love it. It was Carl Jung, one of the great minds. He said the mind is like an iceberg. And so you have, it's my favorite analogy, you have the conscious mind, which is the iceberg, that what you can see above the water, which is like 20% of the iceberg. And then underneath you have the 80%, and that's the subconscious. So if I were to say in a fun way to play around, like, what's 2 times 2? And we would both say 4 is an automated response, because it's in the conscious. It's already in the subconscious.
Yeah.
But then we have, if I were to say to you, what's 17 times 14? We both have to sit here and think about it, because it's not in the subconscious mind. So like, in terms of neurolinguistic programming, or whatever it is you want to call into your life, of whatever it is you want to create, because ultimately what we give out comes back. It's about iteration, and it's about those key times of like, when you're half asleep, half awake, building this neural pathways. And so like, I anchor my day, and like, first thing, it's like gratitude list, all the things I'm grateful for. But it's also those business goals that I'm grateful that I've built. These are my targets. I'm grateful to have sales at this time. I'm grateful to have, in my case, my own little sort of private, I'm building a little retreat center on the Greek island of Corfu with its own little private beach. But that's a dream that I've had for 10 years and for business leaders, it's like, whatever it is that you're calling in, just from a place of gratitude in the present tense, and you build, if you understand the mind and the conscious and the subconscious, it's the way that you can build. So this is also something else I work with my clients, just to anchor them.
Wonderful. I mean, I cannot wait to come to Corfu. I cannot wait to be in retreat, and also this is something that, we can have fun experiences in healing as well. Sometimes we do need to unplug ourselves from our life. Sometimes we need to go somewhere sacred and somewhere nice to rewire ourselves and to give ourselves what we need. Sometimes we need to learn the tools. And I love what you mentioned as well, that, empowering other people with the micro tools that we can use on daily basis to make ourselves feeling great and better. And the same tool that I use, which is the morning and evening ritual, I think that a lot of the clients who are listening or people who listen to this podcast already know about it, but I cannot emphasize, especially nowadays, the importance of that, waking up and setting up your day, closing up your day, really seeing where you are. Gratitude is the most creative power that we can experience in addition to love, right? Being grateful, it's so creative and so soul nourishing, instead of I want, I am grateful for, I need, I have this, right?
Because also if you say I want or I hope, the message you're giving out to life, the intelligence that sits behind our lives, is I don't have. And so it's such a subtle but key shift, which I ground people back to, of you've got to stay with that. And also it's ultimately it's our thoughts that create our reality and the filter of how we see the world. And if you see, like, from everything that I've read and listened to and inhaled in terms of knowledge of trust, trying to educate myself in the last 8 years, let's say, and it's all like exercise and gratitude without making it overcomplicated. Like, if you just keep that into your daily practice, and gratitude is something it's the essence of how I live my life, and I think it's a little secret golden weapon.
You beat me to my last question too, because I wanted to ask you, what is the golden thing that you found out of your healing journey? And you said exercise and gratitude, which it's amazing, right? So we can simplify it. It doesn't need to be that complex. If you just do two things, it will make significant difference, right?
Totally. And if you're going to choose one thing, gratitude, and it's such a beautiful thing you can do on your own, obviously, but if you're with a beloved, a lover, whatever, it's like the most. And I with my partner of many years, I always used to first thing, and he had real challenges with depression. And the first thing I would say to him is like, what are you grateful for this morning? And it was just like, even if it's just one thing, like your family, your health, whatever. And then in the last, before bed, like the thing I would always say to him before bed is, what was the best thing that happened today? Just tell me like one thing. And it's like, when you start to, the more you look, the more you start to see things. And then you just create this like really positive vortex, which is how now when I meet people very often sort of comment on like my energy, or that I have so much light around me. But I've been cultivating that for 10 years, more or less, with the power of compound interest, which all of your brilliant executive people will know.
Yeah, Pearly, we can talk about forever. I unfortunately had my podcast coach, from Ibiza, who told me you need to keep the format within 40 minutes. And I keep on struggling all the time when I have people like yourself. I want to do what, other people do, like 2 hours conversation. And she was like, nobody's listening for 2 hours, 40 minutes. So we are at the 40 minutes mark. I just want to thank you so much for coming. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And, think about, how would you like to leave audience with? What is your call for action for everybody who is listening? In the meantime, I'm going to say that in the description of this podcast, we're going to share Pearly's offer to TNM Coaching Community, which is around 40% to microenergetic surgery sessions that are normally 650, now $350, which I think is absolutely amazing for everybody who is listening to take this opportunity to book and to experience this modality, to help themselves to have better, profound, more beautiful life. So this is all going to be in the description of this podcast. So please act. Pearly, how would you like to leave our listeners with? What is our last thought or last broadcast from you?
Well, I think aside from those two little nuggets, which is just such a gift for me, it brings me so much joy every day. If you feel the call in terms of this lands at the heart resonance, I'm also happy to chat to everyone. And I know that, there can be a lot of challenges that come up. And so I think especially around the corporate landscape and also with legal challenges, it's always such a privilege and a gift to help people. So if there's any sort of layers of support, it would be such a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be able to help them.
Hey, thank you so much for coming today. It was joy and pleasure, and I've been healed. Talking.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everybody else, for tuning into TNM Coaching Unplugged and Zone to Dorich Interconnected podcast. Keep on sharing. I love that we're growing. Our audience is getting stronger. It's all because of you share. So I hope this episode is going to elevate and inspire you and empower you to heal, to transform, to reach out, and also to share with your loved ones, your community, your friends and family, and also your business partners, your business colleagues, because we are entering into the new paradigm of this planet Earth when we do all need to be restored, healthy, beautiful, able to perform and live our life in the most beautiful way we can. So thank you so much for tuning in. Bye for now, everybody.